In this video, I'm going to dive into the secrets and histories of each of the DLCs and expansions that have come out in the 7 years of Destiny 2. I'll offer insights that I guarantee you'll not come across before, so let's start. The first headcanon expansion of Destiny 2 was never an official expansion, the Red War. If this was a DLC, it would have been the biggest DLC in the history of the entire game. Launched in 2017 during Destiny 2 Vanilla, 8 base strikes dropped, new PvP modes, Vault of Glass, King's Fall, Prophecy. Interestingly, last October a lawsuit popped up against Bungie and the Red War narrative. Sci-fi author Kelsey Martineau alleged that Bungie copied elements of their story which she wrote in around 2013-2014. The lawsuit claims that both Martineau's story and Destiny 2 feature a faction called the Red Legion as the main antagonists in their respective stories. In Martineau's story, the Red Legion is an army that's alien, led by Overlord Ynira, a warlord that seeks to conquer Earth and claim Tananob Station, a massive floating habitat in low orbit. Bungie, to date, hasn't actually commented about this at all. Year 1 also hyped up the intro of Osiris, then seriously fumbled it with the Curse of Osiris and the Warmind campaign as paid expansions that would be typically smaller than standard yearly DLCs. But it now looks like Bungie is making their new style of expansions from 2025 onwards the similar kind of size to Warmind. The official DLC that started the debate, that to date has not ended. Who actually killed Uldren Sov? The dark, western, goth-like first official DLC dropped was The Forsaken in 2018 and had a mammoth amount of exotics that we all still regularly use even 6 years later. Bungie needed to compensate for the lack of solid content and narrative direction of Year 1 and pulled in other studios to deliver what is one of their biggest DLCs in exotic supers game modes and began the rollercoaster ride that has been seasonal content. Forsaken was seen as the biggest change to Destiny 2 since the game started out. They added a new weapon type in a bow. We got Wishender, yay. A different super to each Guardian subclass, 9 in total, 4 strikes, a new raid in Last Wish, the PvP mode, Gambit, a new Crucible mode called Breakthrough, and the first dungeon, which was shorter but still challenging than raids for 3 players, in the Shattered Throne. Omar Aga's soul and light was trapped in the body of a worm larvae, then transferred into a weapon that would obliterate the hive. Xenophage. Shadowkeep promised dark carnage and rituals, but didn't live up to the hype it promised. Bungie's first proper expansion after publicly splitting with Activision Blizzard. Shadowkeep reintroduces the moon as a new destination, bringing back the iconic, nostalgia-filled location from the first game. The story of Shadowkeep sees darkness resurrect numerous foes from the past, known as nightmares, and forces the Guardian to work with Eris Morn, who returns to venture deep under the moon's surface to face another evil. Scarlet Keep is the only strike still in rotation, as well as the new raid they introduced called Garden of Salvation, and of course, that dungeon that is Pit of Heresy. Shadowkeep saw the introduction of Armor 2.0, which drastically changed how armor rolled out and could be modified. Good or bad, Bungie opened up the game as free to play to inject more players into the game and described it as the beginning of a new era of Destiny 2. They also introduced the biggest villain to ever face the Destiny 2 universe to date, the Destiny Content Vault. Titan, Io, Mars, Mercury, and the Leviathan areas all were vaulted away, as well as content and missions directly associated with these destinations. For the first time, we received some what-if possible timelines and realities of Elsie Bray and her time travel shenanigans, which opened up some crazy opportunities for storytelling that were as fun to read as Emperor Callus's Vanguard fiction, where we would get to see the Scions conjure up all kinds of craziness. The most moving and striking thing for me anyway about this expansion was the soundtrack to Deepstone Crypt, along with the meta we're currently experiencing returned, as in Stasis Fever. As for Beyond Light itself, the expansion introduced 2 new strikes, the Disgraced and fan favourite the Glassway, as well as a new raid, that Deep Stone Crypt. Guardians could now modify the ghost shells in the same manner as they could with armour, as part of the Armour 2.0 continuous upgrade. The demise of Gambit begins, as Gambit Prime was renamed to just Gambit. Also, for nostalgia, we got the Cosmodrome back from the original Destiny game. December 2021 was the 30th anniversary, and this was a paid DLC that also added some content for free players, such as the Dares of Eternity 6-player activity. It also added several new weapons inspired from the past, the Grasp of Avarice dungeon, and plenty of new cosmetics. Nokris had cast shadows of what was going to come in the Witch Queen since the season of arrivals, and it was very much worth the wait. At long last, Bungie delivered a slam dunk of a DLC. Survive the Truth was the tagline for the Witch Queen. The top tier blend of lore and action made this almost standalone edition a winner in the eyes of most players and myself. But for me, it's Vow of the Disciples' introduction of Rulk, one of the most interesting characters with a backstory so rich and textured that it's just pure fun to learn more about the first disciple of the Witness. The Void subclasses were rejigged to function the same way as Stasis, offering fragments and aspects, and eventually Bungie added all this detail to existing subclasses, starting to really drive into proper build crafting from your subclass all the way to weapons. This might be the sole expansion where I prefer the seasons to the actual DLC. 3 of the 4 seasons were bangers. Some mind-blowing lore on the precursor peoples of the Witness, the origins of the worms and their proto-species, and the gameplay in Season of the Witch that I actually really enjoyed. Playing the modifiers and that Athenaeum area unlocked in the Helm, all were great. In Brazilian Portuguese, the title for the expansion was Sombra, or Shadow, and I think that's kind of perfect for what we actually got. Lightfall was the Shadow that was released at the end of February 2023 and was very much a filler episode before the final shape was due to drop. A highlight was learning more about Nazarek, final god of pain, and of course the new raid, Root of Nightmares, along with a slew of new quality of life changes, like an update to builds crafting, an all new loadout system, a recommendation system that nobody asked for, and Guardian ranks. Gameplay was solid, story was confused, and unnecessary was the introduction of the absolute MacGuffin, the Veil. This is the kind of filler that was aimed at gameplay and reintroducing fan favourite weapons back into rotation, that you could attune the drops for the weapons you really wanted to gather, rather than just be at the whim of the great RNG gods. And it actually really worked. Onslaught and Pantheon were solid additions to the game. All of this led up to Shaxx releasing the all-black shader back into the game, to the joy of mostly everyone that played PvP, just basing it on the lobbies I was part of. If you take anything from the final shape, it is solely this. Tormentors are all female and have 4 thumbs. When we reach the climax of the Light and Dark Saga, the final shape expansion, we arrive in June 2024. A little later than expected, but worth the wait. Guardians followed the Witness into the Traveller itself, discovering the Pale Heart, an absolutely amazing new destination featuring the architecture ranging from the Lost City to the Tree of Silver Wings and other absolutely crucial locations from memory, all leading to the Monolith and the Witness at the centre. Guardians truly ascended with the new subclass Prismatic, which allowed players to combine elements of light and dark into something new. Each class got a new super added and an exotic class item with perks that combined into 2 other armor perks from other classes together. Multiple new exotic weapons and armor came alongside the Salvation's Edge raid and a final confrontation with the Witness in the Excision mission. All in all, this was arguably the largest expansion in Destiny and was critically acclaimed as a perfect finale to the Light and Dark Saga. Beyond the final shape, Bungie switched gears to a new episodic format with 3 main experimental structures for this year only. The first Echoes came a week after the final shape dropped. These standalone episodes are Vex, Scorn, and Hive focused, while I initially thought that these would serve to tie up the story of these races within the larger paracausal universe of Destiny. That's absolutely not the case, and in fact, it seems to have added more complexity to the stories of each. Vesper's host dungeon during episode Revenant has already teased out something to come in the next iteration of Destiny 2. We've already been teased with the people of the Lodi coming in Project Apollo and Behemoth, not sure. But apart from some very, very vague conversations on the live streams, that's all there is, story-wise anyway. Bungie is now free to go on a journey of experimentation with game types and how they tell stories with smaller DLCs running from year to year and returning to a seasonal model, but with less linear structure so we can more explore and take our time. We should have a very interesting 2025 to see where the next few years will take the journey beyond the Light and Dark saga. If you're still reeling from the revelations that were uncovered in the final shape, and especially how the darkness is not the source of great evil that it once was taunted to be in the early DLCs, you should check out The Nature of Darkness and The Witness, who in the billions of years of their existence were terrified by only a few people. So check that out right here.
Wow, this has just been such a pleasure. I'm such a lucky boy. I can't wait to go home